What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Wednesday Swing for the Fences show. I got my boy G Rising. Man, Goins back in the analysis seat where he likes to be for this nice 10-game slate. And yeah, we got a great one. A lot of really good pitching options up top. I don't remember a slate with this many aces up top, but the matchups are pretty tough for a lot of them. So a lot of options aside. Excited to dive in and talk about them. Hitting isn't as good, not like yesterday, but to start it off, I need to go to G Rising because I was wondering yesterday, did you end up betting and have a ticket to cash on Sunday when Miggy hit his 500th? Or were you jumping off a couple days earlier and you gave up and missed it?
Yeah, I gave up. I missed it. I only did it for the first series. I just thought he'd have it. And then, it seemed like it caught all kinds of attention. Everybody was giving me shit about it. But hey, he finally got it done. I mean, I figured he'd do it on the road. Of course, he hits it on the first game on the road. So, but kudos to him, man. He's one of the best right-handed hitters I've ever seen. I mean, he did win the Triple Crown a few years ago. The guy, I mean, what I like about him is he just enjoys baseball. So I like somebody that, it's fun to root for somebody like that. But yeah, I was happy he hit it. And now they're chasing after that 3,000 hit. I think it's going to be tough for him to get it in this year. He might do it in the beginning part of next year, unless he kind of gets on a little tear. I think he's 40 some hits shy, something like that. So we'll see what he does. But yeah, I missed out on that one, but that's all right. I mean, I think, what was it? Maybe 8 games that he went. So yeah, I'd have been in the hole, but if I would have bet it every day, I'd have been in the hole $300 or $400, but I gave up after one day.
Hey, that's probably pretty smart, but yeah, I mean, that was awesome to see. Wish he did do it at home, but 500, what a milestone that is. Thanks everybody hanging out in the chat with us. We got Jason Cornell, Steve Anthony as always, Donovan Crone, Rolo, WV Reezer. Thanks for hanging out with us. Fun slate we're going to talk about. Mangone, though, throwing it over to you. Got any first looks on this slate? I know yesterday we got a good amount of stuff, right? The Camden Yards game stack really crushed. Boston did their thing. Fetty was the cheap pitcher. We'll get to some of the screenshots, but a lot went right. A couple things went wrong. How was yesterday? And then today, do you have any first thoughts on the slate, or just talk about how your Wednesday went up till now?
Yeah, we got Stephen Coy in the chat. He's spreading the good mojo. And then G Rising with the paper hands for Miguel Cabrera. So that was really funny. But, it's good to see Miggy get that home run. Obviously, the Tigers played today. And I see people in the chat have been sweating out this early slate, right? With Merrifield hit a grand slam. It's been a fun time in the Run Pure Sports Discord chat. So, guys, get in there. Come hang out with us. But, yeah, this slate, I like the pitching kind of. I feel pretty good about the path that I'm going. I'm more of, like I said, a one lineup kind of guy. I think there's different ways to approach it in cash games, different ways to approach it in tournaments. You can go a lot of different routes. There's not just one clear cut route, I think. But for me, I have a route that I know I'm going, right? You can talk yourself into so many different pitchers, right? If someone said to me, hey, like this top end arm, I think he's a really good option. I don't think I'd talk you out of it, but there's just a route that I know that I'm going and I feel good about. So I'm ready to kind of break this all down and get going to it.
Excited to hear your route for sure. We were talking a little pre-show. So excited to hear you got your route. You're confident on it. But as you mentioned, if you want to do hop in Discord, which I highly recommend, not only for the winners, but just the entertainment value in itself, use the promo code RPS NFL 15, and that gets you 15% off your monthly subscription for life. That promo code is going to be ending in a couple weeks now. I think it's about 2 NFL seasons right around the corner. I won 50 all my best balls already, so I don't know what I'm going to be doing in my downtime from now until football. But if you want to hop in Underdog, I highly recommend it. Use the promo code RUNPEER, and you'll get $25 deposit bonus, which will get you 1 entry into the Millie Maker or the five $5 puppy balls. I've been having a lot of fun in those in best balls. Simon, Bobby Gomes, Snyder, we've been in there a lot. JSU. So we dropped the show on it too with Snyder, Simon, myself, and Bobby Gomes talking about our process, what they like. So make sure you do check that out on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. And I see we got 150 watching, 46 likes. I see the haters are out today. That group chat definitely rang some people up to hit the dislike button. 15 dislikes, but that's all right. We can get those likes up. Hang out with us on this nice Wednesday afternoon. And then we'll go to the members never win segment because we definitely had a couple nice wins starting in PGA over the week. Nuggets 33, our guy in Discord, the man of the people, always giving out stakes and bringing the good mojo. He won $1,500. And then he also had a nice MLB hit yesterday. I saw he turned like $100 into $3,000. He won a ticket. I believe he won the $50 single entry. So congrats to Nuggets. Just a great guy. Keeps crushing overall. Really good for this community. Another PGA hit, Kai Golfer 23, $10,000. You absolutely love to see that getting in the first place. Actually, no, that's tennis. That's not PGA. Excuse me. Susie's absolutely been crushing it. Matty Ice is over there. Congrats to Kai Golfer 23 on 10,000. Then MLB Slick Derula, he won 1,500. He's a part of our Discord. Congrats to him. Then a monster hit, K21 Dean at $100,000 hit over the weekend, I believe it was. Congrats to him, $100,000. That's life-changing money. Congrats to you. Definitely take that. I know he had a hit a couple months ago, I believe it was, to another nice big one. So congrats to you. And then Hoop yesterday. He didn't make the members never win segment. He only screenshots the big first place ones, but he took third and fourth in the monster yesterday over on FanDuel for, I think it was like 20,000 and 10,000 or something like that. He went with Fetty as the cheap pitcher on FanDuel. He had some Boston stacks. He talked about Renfro. And then his guy, Brandon Marsh, is the 4X play of the day. He had the narrative going. He had a very good performance down there in the 7-hole and the game stack too. So excited to talk about it. Congrats to all the winners. And yeah, we'll try and run it back today with a lot of winners. 10-game slate. We'll get right into it. Mango, I'm going to throw it to you first since you do have a very good, strong grasp on this slate. You said pitching's absolutely loaded. We got Brandon Woodruff, Zach Wheeler, Walker Buehler, Luis Castillo, Robbie Ray, Shohei Ohtani. So that's 8.7K and above on DraftKings. They're all pretty. I mean, Woodruff's the top arm or the most expensive at 10.2. Ohtani's 8.7. So we don't see too much salary separation as much as we do on FanDuel. I think you just play whoever. I mean, I don't think should matter. Ownership's going to be pretty spread out. A couple of those guys will be significantly lower owned. I think Walker Buehler and Luis Castillo is going to be the lowest out of the bunch. But talk about your favorite arms on this slate because the top tier is absolutely loaded.
Yeah, so the top tier is loaded, but it's worth mentioning the matchups. It's not the easiest spots in the world. Sure, there are strikeouts in that Rays lineup. I think Zach Wheeler is probably the best at the top, but I do have some worries, right? Do I want to deal with a Rays lineup that I think has power and pop and can cause some problems for a guy like Wheeler? Certainly that could be an issue. Then you got Woodruff at the top, right? I think Brandon Woodruff, he's an awesome play. But I mean, again, do I want to spend my salary that way? Now on DraftKings, if you look at the prices, in the past, Brandon Woodruff would have been maybe 11K here. And like Wheeler may have been like 10.7. Like it feels like you are getting a bit of a discount on these guys. And it just depends on the construction on this slate. And if you're going for some of these cheap bats, and then there's a lot of different bats that you can go to on this slate. And there are some salary savers that, can help make your lineup work where you can pay up for one of these top end arms. I do think Robbie Ray is the ceiling play where, yes, the floor might not be as great, but the ceiling is very large. We know the White Sox, they can strike out, but they have some big bats in that lineup, and they kind of turned it a little bit yesterday. So I think Ray is the best like floor ceiling combo guy where it's like, yeah, listen, he might bust. Cash games, I don't like it as much. Tournaments, I think he's a really great play. And then at the top, if I'm taking one arm at the top, it's between Wheeler and Woodruff. And I think what I do is I think I lean Wheeler and just hope he can get the job done. Now, the Rays also have a pitcher in the lineup because they're going from an AL park to an NL park, which helps them out because typically they have that absolutely loaded lineup. So I think if you are spending up, I would go to Zach Wheeler. I haven't mentioned Ohtani or even Plesac yet. And Plesac, I understand the argument, but I'm not going to go there. I think it's unnecessary on this slate. Ohtani, you can make the case because of what Baltimore can do. They can strike out a ton. But my problem with Ohtani is I know what the floor can be. Sometimes he just gets absolutely shelled. And I do know the Orioles can put up runs. Of course, I'm not expecting this to be the game that they win finally, but they could easily lose this game like 10-6. And they could, Ohtani could give up runs. So I think that I'm going to go all the way down to Josiah Gray at 7.9K. I think he's my favorite arm on this slate. And I kind of think that's the case on FanDuel too. I think he has the opportunity to get the quality start because the Marlins, what do? They don't walk a lot and they strike out a ton. So the at-bats are pretty quick where I think he can get the 6 innings. So I don't have to worry about that. They have that younger kid on the mound, Cabrera, who we'll talk about when we get to some of these cheaper pitchers. But, there is a chance he can obviously get the win, Gray. So I think ultimately I'm on Gray. I like the talent that I've seen. He has a nice strikeout number. I mean, I think he's got 25% strikeout rate so far this year. And these Marlins are just bad. And if you look at all the ballparks today, right, there's a lot of hot weather games. And I mean, there's a ton. Look left and right. Every single game is like 85 degrees or more. But I get this ballpark where it seems like the hitting doesn't really go off too much. And it's not outdoors. So I'm in on Gray. He's my number one pitcher on this slate.
Yeah, I didn't mention him. He was a little below the 8.5K range, but yeah, 7.9K. I definitely think he'll get some ownership. And we just saw what Fetty did to this Marlins team yesterday. So Pitchers Park against Miami. I definitely do have interest in Josiah Gray. As far as the top arms, I think I'm Zach Wheeler number one at 10K. Yeah, but this Tampa Bay team, like all these matchups, I mean, Cincinnati, I mean, they just hit Corbin Burns yesterday. He had a floor performance. That's a pesky team in American Family in Milwaukee, which is a pretty hitter's park. Walker Buehler has been really, really good this year. He gets San Diego, which is another tough matchup, but I think in tournaments, he definitely makes a lot of sense because I think Woodruff, Wheeler, Robbie Ray are going to be significantly higher owned. Castillo, I'm not touching against Milwaukee. I do like Robbie Ray, 8.9K against the White Sox. You get the little price discount, and he's been really, really good with the strike. He has a lot of strikeouts. I like his ceiling. And then Ohtani, I don't really know what to do with him. On FanDuel, he's the most expensive pitcher at 11.6. DraftKings, he's significantly lower, but I think he's fine. The strikeout, he's been really, really good. He hasn't walked anyone since the All-Star break. His strikeouts, they're there, but it is in Camden Yards. It is warm, so I'll have some maybe MMEing, but he's not up top for me. G Rison, I know you're on FanDuel mainly, so I mean, talking about Ohtani, he's the most expensive pitcher at 11.6 over there, where he is 6 on DraftKings. So are you going to be I mean, he's going to be significantly lower owned. Do you have any interest in him? Otherwise, Walker Buehler's 11.3, Zach Wheeler's 11K, Robbie Ray's 10.5, Woodruff's 10.3. How do you see that upper tier range? Or are you just going to skip that range really and go to Josiah Gray, who's 8K, get a 2K discount from them like Mangone was talking about? So how do you see pitching over on FanDuel?
Yeah, just like you mentioned, pitching's tough today, I think. I mean, all the good pitchers have really tough matchups. I don't recall a slate where we have such high-end pitching. I mean, we got 5 guys over 10K. You mentioned Ohtani. I just don't think that I can pay 11.6 for him. I just think there's just too much a capability there for Baltimore just to go off on him. I'm not sold on Ohtani at that price. I don't think he's as consistent as I would want him. So I'm not willing to pay that. If maybe he was down in the Woodruff range or Giolito range, maybe the 10K range, I think I might be a little bit more interested. But as you guys mentioned, the weather's really hot across the country. It's hot as hell here in Detroit. You can't even walk outside without your shirt being wet. The ball's going to be flying quite a bit. I do think, you look at a guy like Robbie Ray. I think Mangone was right. I think the ceiling is there, which you're interested in for a tournament. Ray's a guy that I'm interested in. I think Wheeler, if I was playing cash games, it would be my pitcher here. I think he's about the safest. I do like Wheeler. Buehler, I think, is a pretty good pivot off of Ray and maybe Woodruff, but Woodruff seemed to be struggling his last couple starts. So I don't know if that's where I'd want to go. Snell is a wild card. I think Snell's a wild card where you could get a really good game out of Snell, or he could just absolutely get blown up by the Dodgers. Obviously, we're going to be a little bit worried about that matchup. But he is at home, and I do like lefties generally against the Dodgers. So I don't mind Snell as a tournament play. Mango mentioned Gray. I looked at him a little bit. I do like the matchup. I do like what he's saying about Miami with the park. I do like that. FanDuel, I'm generally looking at a guy I think is going to get me 6 innings, has a chance for a quality start, and get me some K. So I think Gray may fit into that. And then you mentioned that young kid Cabrera, just been striking out guys, 32% rate. I think he's got like a 14% walk rate though as well. So that's a little scary, but he does have a lot of Ks there. I think that Washington-Miami game, I was actually looking at some bets beforehand. I was thinking about betting the under in the first 5 innings of that game, actually. But I do like that. But yeah, actually today, I think I'm going to be a little bit more spread out with pitching. I think I might have 5 teams. I may actually have 5 different pitchers today. So normally I don't like to do that, but today is a day that you do not want to just get smashed at pitching, because I really think that there's an opportunity for a few guys that could be in the 60 mark, close range on FanDuel, could get up there, and I think you got to have them. So I may kind of maybe just limit my bats today and maybe spread out pitching a little bit more. That's generally the strategy I like to play when I'm not as sure at pitching. So I do like a few of those guys at the top, and you can make a case for 7-8 guys today. So I think I'm going to be a little more spread out, like I was saying, but Wheeler is my favorite. And then I think I'm going to go down to Ray, and then I'm going to look at Gray. I think I'm going to take Mangone's advice, and I'm going to have some great teams as well.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the, I mean, I usually keep my pitching pool condensed too, but it's tough to make a case to fade some of these top guys just because there's so many aces. We haven't seen a slate like this really. Someone in chat, who was it? Butthole Jenkins, you see him in here all the time. He said, where's JSU been hiding? Did he retire? No, JSU's on the premium show, on the countdown show like he usually is. And yeah, if you want to he's going to be on there today with DC and Holden. Use the promo code RPS NFL 15, get 15% off, and then you can catch that show up till lock. Comment right below that, Maria. She said, hi, my husband won first place, $1,000 last night, thanks to JSU and his Baltimore call. Mountcastle and Santander did it for him. So yeah, right on cue. Congrats to your husband, Maria. Mountcastle and Santander, you absolutely wanted them and needed them to win tournaments. So congrats to him. JSU, great call. And yeah, make sure to catch him up to lock on the premium show using the promo code. 318 watching, 101 likes. Keep it up. You're doing pretty good. Just gonna wrap up pitching here, but we can get those likes a little higher. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Wednesday. Man, going a couple other guys, since we did talk top tier 8-5. I know you dipped down to Josiah Gray a little bit. A couple guys below them that I do have some interest in, or at least I want to talk about. G. Risen mentioned Blake Snell. He's only 7.5K on DraftKings, whereas FanDuel, he is 9K. I mean, it's a matchup with the Dodgers. It's Blake Snell, but we know Blake Snell's either going to pitch a gem, strike out 10, and do what Blake Snell sometimes does, or he's going to get walk guys, have bad command, and get hit around the diamond and be out of there in a couple innings. I don't love picking on the Dodgers. I think I'm going to be more high on the Dodgers bats than I will Blake Snell today. I know I played him yesterday. They didn't do very well. I love this lineup though. I think the Dodgers are going to be pretty low owned, and we have a lack of bats on this slate where we have good pitching. So I'm going to be more heavy on the Dodgers side with the bats, but there's no denying Blake Snell's ceiling. And at 7.5K, he's cheap down there. Josiah Gray, 7.9. And then the guy that I expect to get some ownership that's way too cheap, Edward Cabrera. He's making his major league debut today. He's in Miami, so it's a Miami-Washington, a lineup that we're not scared of with Washington. Pitchers Park. He's had very good strikeout stuff, north of 30% in the minors, but he also has had a little walk control or walk problems. So, I mean, it could be another Jesus Luzardo performance a couple weeks back where he walks too many, but he is 5K on this slate. There are some bats in Boston that we do want to pay for. I think he's way too cheap. I mean, 5K is too cheap for this matchup. No pitch count concerns, Pitchers Park. So how do you see Edward Cabrera, and then talk about Blake Snell? And I know you mentioned Josiah Gray, but rank them after you talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, Josiah Gray is my number one. And one thing to mention, titles, like I make him my SP1 because I don't know where I want to go yet with SP2, right? So he's like my SP1 on this list. Sometimes I feel like people are like, oh, my SP1 is the most expensive guy. Well, I just don't know where I'm going. I might go up, I might go down. You talked about Cabrera, and I don't mind the idea of just playing both pitchers in this game, right? And then, just seeing what happens. I mean, some of these offenses, are really good in this league now, and some are really bad. In the Nationals, I mean, sure, Juan Soto is there, Josh Bell, solid, but a lot of these young guys, I mean, it's just not a great lineup. Sure, some of these young guys could be good in a couple of years, but I think that Cabrera is definitely a route that I'm looking at possibly taking. It depends on if I want those bats. And as we're mentioning on DK, there are some really cheap bats, right? I mean, I haven't gotten into it yet. We haven't talked about offenses, but like Jorge Polanco, Josh Donaldson, those twins, they're all really cheap. There's a lot of cheap bats on this slate, but there are expensive ones that you want in Boston as well. So it just depends on how your roster construction is going. I'm going to prioritize my SP1, and then I'm going to prioritize which bats I want, and then I'll figure out which SP2 fits. Because I think there's a lot of different ones you can go at each tier. It just depends what you want to stomach, right? You can make an argument for Blake Snell, like you said. I do think Blake Snell has upside at the price, but he does have downside. It just depends if you really want to pick on the Dodgers on this slate. It's kind of similar to Robbie Ray, just like a cheaper way to kind of go about it if you would like. So that's kind of my overall breakdown on those three pitchers. I don't really see anyone else down here I would mess with. I don't believe in Taijuan Walker. Tyler Gilbert, I mean, I guess you could make the argument against Pittsburgh, but I just don't think you need to. I'd rather go Cabrera over Gilbert. So for me, it's really Josiah Gray is my number one on this slate. And then if I go all the way down, I'm going to Cabrera. And then if I go up, I'm debating between those guys at the top. And right now my lean would be Zach Wheeler.
Yep, I'm definitely with you. You're definitely a little more high on Josiah Gray, I think, than I am. I like him for sure. I have more interest on FanDuel, where you do get the $2,000 plus salary savings from, because Bueller's 11K, Wheeler's in the 11Ks, Ohtani's in the 11Ks. Whereas on DraftKings, I know we always talk about it, but Wheeler's only 10K, Woodruff 10-2, Robbie Ray 8-9. So I definitely do like Josiah Gray. I think the ownership's going to be relatively spread out. Right now, for me, we're wrapping up pitcher. Mangone just did. I have similar feelings. Zach Wheeler is my number one SP1 right now, but it's not someone that I'm going to go like 80% of, or if you're 20 entry max in tournaments, like 70% would be way too much, because I mean, I do think Brandon Woodruff, I don't know. I'm going to be lower on him today against Cincinnati. What I saw them do yesterday, Hitters Park, they're pesky, and he hasn't been in the top form recently. So I'm going to be lower on him, but like Robbie Ray, I'm definitely going to get some. Walker Buehler, I think, is going to be very low owned, 9.7K. He's just been one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. Doesn't walk anyone. He's just lights out. So if he's going to be low owned, I'm going to have him in tournaments. And then Edward Cabrera on DraftKings, that 5K price tag is just, it's a misprice. Boston's the clear top offense on the slate, and they're expensive. So I think he makes sense if you want to get Boston bats. Definitely a great slate for pitching. G. Risen, you want to wrap it up on FanDuel at all? I mean, Edward Cabrera is 7-3 on FanDuel, Josiah Gray's 8K. So that's 700 price difference. I do prefer Josiah Gray if I'm just going to do that. I feel better that he could get 6 innings. His command's a little better. So, I mean, his floor, I think, is definitely higher than Cabrera's. I don't think the 700 is enough over there, whereas DraftKings, you're getting almost 3,000. So wrap it up and then rank your top 3 pitchers on FanDuel for us.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there with Gray and Cabrera. I mean, it's only a 700 difference. I'm never opposed to building the team and just swapping pitchers. You know, like if you can throw in Wheeler and then you just throw in Ray, you got the same hitting team, but you just swapped out the pitchers. There's sometimes that I do that. I think today's the day I'm actually probably going to do that. So I may build a Gray team and then just throw in a Cabrera and just leave the money on the table. And unless there's just I generally don't like to get off my stack or whatever else. I've been trying to get myself not to do that as much. You know, when you see that extra $700-800, it's like you want to spend it on another bat or whatever else. And then I veer away from the stacks, and then it just always seems to bite me in the ass. So kind of taking some Big T advice and just stick to your stack. A lot of times I'll do that. So I think today, looking at these guys, the top 3, Wheeler's 1, I'm going to go Ray 2. And then I'll just, I think Buehler would probably be my 3rd. I think Buehler, you made a good point about being a great tournament play today. I really don't think you're going to get him, you know, with a lot of ownership. I think Wheeler probably, if I was going to guess, would be the chalkiest guy probably today. Maybe on FanDuel, you might get some of this Cabrera kid. I'm not sure. Cause like you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of love tonight for the Boston bats. I think they're the obvious chalk as far as bats go. But yeah, I think for me, if I was up on top, Wheeler 1, Ray 2, Buehler, like I said, and then if I had to, Gray. So I think I am going to probably build maybe 3 teams on the high end pitching and probably 2, and I just might swap out those 2. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing today.
Nope, definitely sounds like a good plan. Great slate for pitching. You're going to need, I mean, the reason to mix it, a couple of these guys are going to have on DraftKings, I think 30 points plus maybe, even with some tough matchups. With this many aces, someone's going to be on their game and mowing. So definitely need to get pitcher right today. We'll head over to the bats, but first, 350 watching, 128 likes. We appreciate you if you hit that like button and that subscribe button right there in the bottom right corner. And then make sure to check out DC's podcast that he does every morning, the First Look podcast with one of the coordinators. G. Risen's on there sometimes, Steve Boynton, a couple other of our guys. Run Pure Sports podcast. You can look that up on Apple, Google Play, wherever there's podcasts, and make sure to check that out. He's always talking really good information, and you can catch him up on the Up to Lock show as well. Heading over to the bats, we'll go to the first game, Arizona and Pittsburgh, and it's actually a game. I mean, we're going to get into these, but there's not too many high totals on the slate today. Not like yesterday at all. I mean, the Red Sox have above 5. Cleveland has above 5. Other than that, and the Angels, those are the only three teams with a total above 5. So we're going to have to target some of these teams that we don't usually target, maybe in pitchers parks. And Arizona is one of the teams I have some interest in against Bryce Wilson, who's no good. You get a bullpen that isn't very good either. And they do have cheap bats, guaranteed ninth inning at bats. So how do you look at, I'll go to you, Matt, first, man, going, how do you see some of these Arizona bats? I mean, Van Meter's 2.2K, Christian Walker's 2.5K. Some good bats on the top of the order that are really cheap. How do you see Arizona, and do you have any interest in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, you definitely can't ignore Arizona on this slate, right? The price tags are too cheap. I don't love this ballpark, but you did mention it, right? There's not like a bunch of high totals. Like, I mean, Angels and Boston, I think, kind of gravitate the most ownership. I mean, it's if you've been playing baseball for the last couple of weeks, which I'm sure most people here have, Baltimore is a team that everyone just targets every day, right? I mean, every day, whoever's playing Baltimore basically gets ownership. So I expect the Angels to, I expect Boston to. The price tags are really good on Arizona, which if you look to, Bryce Wilson is a guy that, I mean, you can take some chances against. I also like targeting bad bullpens, and Pittsburgh is typically not the best bullpen. I'm pulling up Wilson's numbers now just to confirm. And yeah, he has had some struggles. So I think you can take some shots with these guys. The only worry I have sometimes with this team is, do I really want to do like a 5-man stack at Arizona? Can I see all 5 getting there today? Not so much. If you do that, you're probably doing the double barrel spend up a pitcher route, but I think it's better to make these guys more of a 2-man or a 3-man stack. At least that's the personal preference for me on this slate. I mean, one guy I think that's been hitting the ball great and is worth playing is Dalton Varsho. He's pretty cheap towards the bottom of the lineup as well in the 7 hole. So maybe people don't go there. If you look at the last couple of games, he bageled yesterday, but then he's got 14, 37, 17, right? He's been hitting the ball pretty well. He has some power and pop, and he's more towards the bottom of the lineup. So if you're looking for like a one-off or in a 2-man stack, I don't mind getting Varsho in there.
Yeah, I mean, these cheap bats for sure. I think Arizona, I'll mix in a couple of them. Like I agree with you. I mean, a 5-man Arizona stack definitely is pretty gross, but if you want to go like the Woodruff and pair top 2 arms, Wheeler, Woodruff or something, you might need that if you want to mix in some Boston bats. So I like this game a little bit. Arizona's cheap. We'll go over to UG Rising. I know on FanDuel, Michael Chavis he's min price still at 2K at the weak second base position. He got some ownership yesterday. He hit a home run. I think that price definitely stands out on FanDuel. Anything else you like in this game though?
Yeah, Chavis definitely stands, especially at min price hitting leadoff. I mean, anytime you can get a min price guy hitting leadoff, it's always a guy to look into throwing into your into like as a one-off. I've always done that. But Brian Reynolds is another guy that's been hitting the ball. I don't mind him against Tyler Gilbert at all. And then as Mango mentioned, Varsho's just been smashing. He's probably would be my favorite. But I don't like that he's down in the 7 hole, but I was kind of thinking maybe with him being as hot as he is, maybe they'd move him up a little bit. But yeah, I'd say Brian Reynolds and Chavis for me on Pittsburgh. I'm not really interested in any kind of stacks here. I'm not really a fan of the park, but it is pretty warm. It's like about 86, I believe, 7-8 mile an hour winds blowing out. So I don't mind attacking the Arizona pitching staff. I was going to say anyway, I mean, I would maybe stack up a little bit of Pittsburgh, maybe some, maybe like a mini stack. But yeah, I think there's way better spots today that I'm going to look at. I just don't think the upside's here for either team.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Brian Reynolds, another one could Brian Hayes on Pittsburgh. Michael Chavis and Reynolds. I definitely have some interest on FanDuel where they are cheaper, but yeah, a game that usually would be more so of a cross off, but have to have some interest today. Going over to the next game, Tampa Bay and Philly. Zach Wheeler on the mound, which we do have interest in. He's going to get ownership. So if you always want to go to the leverage, pick on one of the highest owned pitchers of the slate, Tampa Bay would be your spot today. I'm not really going to get there too much. If I did, it'd probably be a Brent Phillips, 2.1K. He's in the 5 hole. Kiermaier's 2.2 in the 7 hole. So if you want a really cheap one-off, you can go to one of those guys. Then on the other side for the Phillies, Ryan Yarbrough's on the mound for Tampa. He's a fine real life pitcher. He's not someone I really target too much against. So if you want to Andrew McCutchen, he's 3.6. Gene Segura's 4.8. I'm not going to have too much Philly. Mangone, how do you see this game?
Yeah, who's playing first? Is it Yandy Diaz? I'm assuming you could have, if it's one of those lefties, right? They could magically turn into Nelson Cruz throughout the game, right? Just watch for that. That's something that the Rays are going to be doing. If you do decide to go this route, I just don't think it's too necessary on this slate to go to the Rays. I was on that Rays-Phillies game yesterday. That umpire was awful. It was pretty frustrating to watch, but I just don't see this being the spot where it explodes. I mean, if the Rays went off, would I be shocked? No, I wouldn't be shocked because they're just like a talented offense. You wouldn't be shocked if the Dodgers went off today. They're just one of those offenses that have a lot of firepower. I'm not in on the Rays though. And then I'm not really in on the Phillies either against Ryan Yarbrough. I know Big T's boy, Freddie Galvis is back in the lineup, and maybe he goes to some free money. Freddie, check out Big T's core plays over on the site to see. I don't know if it's one of those days that he'll be there. I just found out he was on the Phillies. I don't know if you guys knew that, but Freddie Galvis back on the Phillies now.
Yeah. G Ryzen, what do you see in this game? It's going to definitely be lower owned. So do you have any interest or is it?
I got interest in Wheeler. Like we were saying, I'm not really interested in either one of these offenses, but I will kind of just take further what you guys were saying about some of these offenses that are just good offenses in general that today do have some tougher matchups. I actually think Boston's going to be really high owned. So it's just because there's so many good pitching options. I think that today's a day that you just, maybe if you do decide to MME and you're going to pick on a really good pitcher, I think you're going to get some of these really good teams in lower ownership. So today I think is just a different kind of day than we've been seeing, where we were always concentrating on bats. Today's a little bit different. But yeah, I don't think, it's going to be a bad idea if you're MME, like you mentioned, throw some Dodgers against Snell, maybe some Rays against Wheeler. When you're looking at some of these pitchers, maybe the White Sox against Ray, or somewhere along those lines. So, the Cincinnati-Milwaukee game, either side could blow up. You got decent pitchers. So I think, if you do MME and you decide, I think you should maybe take one of these good offenses against one of these pitchers and just roll it out there. If they blow up and they go off, you get that pitcher out and maybe look at a team with a shittier bullpen, that we like to look at and exploit. So the Dodgers would fit in that role, and like I said, so even in this Tampa game, I don't know. I mean, Philly isn't really has that great of a bullpen. So if you wanted to use Tampa, I wouldn't argue with you. I mean, they are one of the best offenses, one offense scoring all sorts of runs. If you wanted to be a little different, I wouldn't fault you at all. I couldn't argue with you, but yeah, I think I'm just going to stay away today, but there's definitely some winning upside in a tournament there. If anybody does decide to play one of these high-end offenses in a good, against a good pitcher.
Yeah. G Ryzen is worth mentioning. And I was thinking this throughout, trying to think through going through all these different offenses and going game by game. And we don't want to get stale where we just kind of mention, oh, Boston's good. And we do have to maybe take some shots today that are a bit uncomfortable based on this slate. And Gary's bringing up good points in the chat, and it is hot in that Philly park. And one thing I was looking at with Yarbrough real quick is he's more of like a fly ball guy, right? And let's say the Phillies do get out to a lead, and the Phillies have been hitting the ball a lot better. And JT Realmuto, he was crushing the ball yesterday. I think there is enough value going up to some of these guys at the top. Like the Phillies lineup yesterday was a bit uglier, but that was because there was no Rhys Hoskins, and now he's back, and he is coming off that game where he had 3 home runs not too long ago, and he's been crushing it. I mean, it is worth mentioning these Phillies are probably worth a look, especially because Yarbrough hasn't been as great. Gary brought it up in the chat, and he is right. Some of these righties have crushed him. So maybe I just leave Harper off a Philly stack and I go a McCutchen, Hoskins, Realmuto, and a Segura, or maybe I even just go with a Bryce Harper and take a shot. I mean, Yarbrough is a fly ball guy that typically plays in Tampa, and this is a little bit of a tougher spot. So maybe it's worth looking at. I think I'm going to look deeper at the Phillies now.
Man, getting talked into the Phillies a little bit. I like the first game personally more, so I probably won't be on this game, but we'll go to the next game with a team that's definitely going to get some ownership. Yesterday, Camden Yards, the Angels and Baltimore, we were all over it yesterday, and man, that it didn't fail. That's for sure. Runs were going, Brandon Marsh, Iglesias, you name it on the Angels. If you had them pretty much except Ohtani, which is crazy to think, but that's baseball for you. If you had the Angels and you stacked them, you had a good night. And same with Baltimore. That was very fun to watch. But another game in Camden with warm weather, ball's going to be flying again. But Ohtani's on the mound, so Baltimore is definitely going to be lower owned. On the other side, though, the Angels are going to be one of the highest owned teams outside of Baltimore. They get Chris Ellis. He had his first start last game in long relief. He had 4 innings, 7 strikeouts, so he was pretty impressive. I don't know too much about this guy, though. I mean, he's in the Baltimore bullpen. Don't expect him to be a flamethrower or anything. So if you guys know something more about him, you can touch on that. But Angels have a healthy 5.5 implied total, warm weather, hitters park, ball's going to be flying again. We don't have their lineup right now, but I like going right back to the Angels. And like I said yesterday, you can play top to bottom in this order. The guys down there, I mean, Iglesias, he's not that. Lagares yesterday, he had a home run in the 9-hole. He was 2% owned. Adele down there, he's 3.2K. Top to bottom, you can absolutely play this team. Jared Walsh is my favorite, I would say, at 4.3K. Can't play Ohtani today because he is pitching and hitting, but Angels are definitely going to be owned. I like them top to bottom. Play the bottom of the order, get a little different. Guaranteed ninth inning at bats, so don't have to worry about them getting stiffed on at bats. G. Rison, I'll go over to you. Any interest in the Angels and Baltimore?
Yeah, I always have interest in the team playing against Baltimore. They're just giving up runs at almost a historic pace. So definitely have interested in the Angels. Like you mentioned, 1 through 9. The lineup isn't out yet, but obviously we know we're not going to get Shohei. But, which is a big part of that stack. So even though yesterday he didn't go off, but I mean, if Shohei hits a homer and you end up having a wraparound or anything like that, you're just not catching them runs and for his points there. So that's one thing I just don't like. It's the only thing that scares me off the Angels a little bit. But I mean, Walsh is in a great spot. Marsh is in a good spot. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that. You did mention Ellis came out 4 innings, had a pretty nice start. But, even if he goes 4, we still get 5 innings of that terrible bullpen. And it just seems like lately I've been watching that game and a guy like Mountcastle, this looks like a routine fly ball and it's over the fence.
All's flying Camden, especially warm everywhere.
Yeah, it's definitely a hitter's park. So obviously going to have some interest in the Angels, but like losing Shohei in a stack I just don't like that when he's pitching. I just feel like I'm losing the biggest part of the whole team, and I'm just not a fan. So I might.
But G. Rison, you didn't need it yesterday. He just sat there and walked, and it was a joke. Like he was like the worst player on the entire stack yesterday. I mean, it did work out.
I mean, I don't expect that to happen again today, but I mean,
I guarantee it will, because he'll get you 0 for hitting.
Right. Yeah. Good point, man. Title. Good point. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, I think I would rather play a team that I can get. I mean, I'm not saying Angels are in a bad spot. For me personally, I think I'm just going to fade the Angels, maybe throw in a couple one-off guys. I'm just not going to full stack just because I can't play Shohei. But on the other side, the Orioles are a team I do like to throw in when I'm MMEing. I did play them yesterday. They came out with 8 runs. You know what? I think going back to my where I was talking about, you might want to pick on a good pitcher with a good team, with a bad team, kind of like the Orioles today. I don't mind the Orioles against Ohtani either. So if I'm not going to MME, I probably wouldn't get there. But if you're playing 20, 30, 40 teams, I'd be sure that you have an Orioles stack. I mean, it's kind of like a Snell situation. He could blow up and give up 8 runs, or he could go off and get us 10, 12 Ks, so either way, the Orioles are an interesting team as well. But like I said, I'm not going there, but just the park and everything else, it does make it interesting.
Mangone, any interest in the Orioles? And then Angels, how do you see them? And I mean, because they're definitely a lot cheaper on DraftKings compared to Boston. Like if you look at it, because Ohtani's not in the lineup, Walsh and David Fletcher, 4.3K is the most expensive. I know we don't have the lineup, so I'm going based off of projected, but you got cheap guys. Gosselin's only 3.2, Adele's 3.2, Stassi's 4.1, Iglesias 3.7, Lagares 2K, Marsh 2.7. So there definitely could be matched with Boston. I expect some of these guys to be owned because of that. Are you going to be going after some of these Angels, even with Ohtani and then Baltimore for you, or no?
Yeah, listen, if you want to match both these offenses together, like you better find a way to make it different. Like I think Hoop's team the other day on FanDuel, the one that had got like 3rd or 4th, I was looking at it and I was like, okay, he played 2 kind of chalkier offenses together. It felt like, and it was because he had like bottom of the order Red Sox guys, right? I think he had 1 2-hitter, and then I think he had like the 6, 7, 8. So make sure if you do decide to do that, that's how you're building. I wouldn't tell someone, hey, the Angels are a bad play today. I wouldn't talk anyone off it. If it fits your construction of playing like 2 double barrel pitchers at the top and you want to go with those cheap Angels bats, sure, go for it. That's just not the route that I'm currently going right now. So I'm probably not going to have a lot of Angels. The Orioles, I had some exposure. I did a little MME yesterday, and I will say I'm not doing the MME today, not because it didn't go well, but I just can't be building with only one screen and no mouse. I don't even have a mouse here, so it's just too difficult. I had like Texas stacks yesterday, right? That had one Nate Lau on it. Like that's wrong. Like, I just couldn't make things work with the builder. So I need to be in front of my main setup to do that. But if I was in a meeting today title, I would want the Orioles because we know what can happen to Ohtani. We know how bad that bullpen is. Like Ohtani does have a low floor where if things go wrong, you get into that Angels bullpen, it can go really, really well. And there's some nice power guys. So like if I was building like a 5-3 or a 5-2-1 on DK, I would not ignore guys like Mountcastle, Trey Mancini, Cedric Mullins, all these guys that have power. Don't exclude them from your player pool because I think they're worth getting exposure to.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I mean, hitters park, Camden, balls are flying. So definitely, and they're going to be low owned. Definitely do not mind that. We'll go over to the next game. Two very good, I mean, not very good pitchers, but two pretty good pitchers on this slate. Robbie Ray, Lucas Giolito. Don't expect too many people to be on this game, but these are two of the better offenses with power in Toronto and the White Sox. So good offenses, good pitchers. Should be a fun one to watch. For offense, I mean, Corey Dickerson, I know I mentioned him yesterday and he homered. 2.7K, I still think is too cheap in the 5-hole with the platoon advantage. Andrew Vaughn, 3K against Robbie Ray would probably be my favorite one-off on the White Sox, but I can't make it. I mean, I'm not going to be full stacking this. They are expensive, so you're really going to be contrarian if you go all Toronto because you're going to want the Vlads, the Simeons, Bo Bichette's of the world. And as for the White Sox, you want to target the top of the order too with Jose Abreu in them. So I'm not going to get to them. I do like the Dodgers. We'll get to them later. They're going to be my stack against a popular a pitcher that's considered an ace or somewhat popular on this slate. So I'm not going to be going against these two pitchers, but I don't mind it. Or I get the reasoning because of the offenses. Mangone, are you going to go to your White Sox today or Toronto?
No, I don't think I want to go here. And sometimes I look at like just like the overall total on the game. And like sometimes it like tells a story that like you wouldn't have expected. And like one thing I just looked at too, I was like, wow, the Arizona and Pittsburgh total. If I told you there's a game with Arizona and Pittsburgh, right? And then there's a game with the Chicago White Sox and Toronto, and Arizona and Pittsburgh had a higher total like that. That sounds kind of crazy right now. Obviously, it's because of the pitchers that are in the game, but yeah, that's why I'm just going to be out on this White Sox and Toronto game. I mean, if the offense goes off against them, I'll just take my L and kind of move on. If you want to play guys as one-off, sure. Like I wouldn't tell you you're crazy for playing Vlad as a one-off, but I'm out on this game. No need to get exposure. I build a lot more 4-4 stacks over on FanDuel. You won't see me stacking this game up or any side of this one.
G Ryzen, you on the same page?
Yeah, I'm not stacking it up. I'd rather use the pitchers here. And, you know, as JT's mentioned before, too, I mean, there is a humidor up in Toronto. They haven't really been scoring that many runs. I think I haven't checked the last few days, but Toronto's only put up like 8 runs or more, maybe once since they've been back in Toronto. So the upside to me, I'm worried about them when they're in Toronto. So I think that I'm going to keep my eye on it. But today with these two pitchers, I'm not really interested. I actually, like I said, I'd have interest in both pitchers here, more so Ray. But yeah, the offenses for me is a no.
Going to another game with two pitchers again that we talked about in a pitcher's park in Miami. Edward Cabrera, Josiah Gray, 2 low totals on both teams. But we talked about it yesterday again too. That both teams are cheap, but Washington's really cheap. Lane Thomas is back in the leadoff hole. Min Price at 2K. Carter Kieboom, 6-hole, 2.1K. Ciadiel Hernandez guy in the 5-hole, 2.2K. Riley Adams, if you want a full punt catcher, he's 2K. So we do have some cheap bets if you want to fill it off and one off or something. I wouldn't mind, but it's not a game I'm going to be targeting or stacking. Pitchers Park, interest in some of these pitchers. Assume you guys are on the same page with G Ryzen. Anything to add?
No, I mean, you could maybe look at, like I said, we do like both pitchers. I mean, if you wanted like a one-off, like you mentioned, Lane Thomas, he's Min Price, he's in the leadoff spot always. I actually played him yesterday and threw him in as a one-off on some teams just to open up some salary. But yeah, I'd be interested in both pitchers here. So really not interested in any of the bats.
Mangone.
Yeah, I mean, G Ryzen made the case for why you maybe play one of these guys, right? Like Lane Thomas, who's at the leadoff spot where he's just so cheap that like he helps make things work. So that's kind of how I would approach it. If he helps make things work, then sure, he could be a guy that you throw in there as a one-off. Or if you just need like a low-owned spend up like Juan Soto, I would not tell you that playing Juan Soto is a bad thing. He can hit 2 home runs on any day, and I would not be shocked. So that's kind of how I would break down this game. And then, you know me, I'm on more of the pitchers here.
Unless Juan Soto went out last night in that Miami fun time nightlife and feels like shit today. So, I could see, I always wonder that too, when a team gets into Miami the first night. It's got to be one of the funnest cities in all of MLB to have fun in. So it always makes you wonder. I always think about that, because I know if I went to Miami, I sure the hell have a good time that night.
A little narrative street from your boy G Rison. He is a young kid. G Rison would absolutely be down there partying. Who knows if he is, but hey, I do like that.
Well, if he ran into me, he wouldn't be playing the next day.
That is for sure. And no way you'd be playing the next day after all your Modelos either. You'd be taking a day off for sure. We'll go to the next game, but we got 400 watching, 166 likes. We appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe button in the bottom right, and use the promo code RPS NFL 15 for 15% off your monthly subscription for life, which will be ending in about 2 weeks with NFL coming up. I can't wait for NFL. It's going to be very, very fun. Preseason, we've been rolling over in Discord, so make sure you check that out. Definitely cannot wait for NFL. But going to the next game, and man, I mean, we get the Giants, we get the Mets. These Giants just absolutely keep crushing. Home runs galore. Yesterday, Brandon Belts, he double donged. They had a lot of home runs yesterday. Just seems like, I mean, Taijuan Walker, he hasn't been too good as of late. I don't think he's a bad pitcher, but at the end of the day, like Alex Dickerson, 3.3K, Brandon Belt, 4.5K, Lamonte Wade, 4K. If these guys are just going to keep hitting home runs every single day, I'm just going to play them. And on a slate like this, where I think they're going to get overlooked, they do have a lower total, but there's not too many good offensive spots. I'm just going to play the Giants and ride the hot streak. So I do like myself some Giants. On the other side, Johnny Cueto is making his first start off of the IL. I have some interest in these Mets. Michael Conforto's 3.5K, Jeff McNeil's 4K, Pete Alonso 5.2K. I think this is a very sneaky game stack that I don't think is going to get a lot of ownership, kind of like Arizona and Pittsburgh. So I have a little interest in this game. G Rison, I'll go to you. Do you like any of the Giants and Mets? And I think they'll be low owned on both sides.
Actually, on this slate, when I was looking at it, the Giants for me at this point are my favorite stack.
Wow.
I do like all the lefties here. I mean, they're on the road. They're one of the top hitting home run teams in baseball. Walker does give up some dongs at lefties. So, you got Wade Jr. in the leading off. You got Belt. You got Dickerson. You got Crawford. Yaz. You even got Tommy La Stella, who came back. So he's been hitting. So I do really like the lefties here. They're my favorite stack today. So I'm probably going to play at least 4 of these Giants, probably pair them up and see how I fits with some of the pitchers and see what other stacks I put with it. But the Giants for me, I'm probably going to have them on 3 of my 5 teams. They're my favorite team today.
Man, Goen, your thoughts on the Giants and Mets? Do you like them as well?
Yeah, I've been targeting Taijuan Walker lately, and it hasn't gone as great as I have hoped. But I think this is a good spot to do it. Obviously, the Mets, I think they're one of the humidor stadiums as well. But like when it's like super hot like this, it just doesn't kind of matter. So, and the Giants, they hit the ball out of the park everywhere and anywhere, right? They don't care. They play in San Francisco. And I know San Francisco isn't what it used to be. It used to be a better pitcher's park, but these bats, they can hit the ball. So I think that targeting Walker here is fine. I'm not scared of that Mets bullpen as well. We talked about wanting to target some bad bullpens, and the Mets, their bullpen's not that good. So I'm definitely interested in that. I think the Giants are a good stack, and I'm kind of kicking myself yesterday. I thought that, playing a Giant stack in my MME stuff was a good idea. And then last second, I just kind of moved off them, and I was kind of frustrated about that because I thought it was a good idea. But I'm going to go to some Giants here. I think they're a team that's in play for me as one of my stacks I'm looking at.
So that's the reason you're not MMEing today, because you bounced off the Giants last second and they crushed your soul. I get it.
Oh, the real reason is, I mean, when I looked, and again, I'm not like the biggest MME guy, and there's like holes I need to plug. Like I remember Jose Abreu hit a home run, and I looked at first and I said, okay, like how much do I have of him? And then I was like, why is he only on one team? Right? Like there were just errors made that I could not make without. I'm not even using a mouse, right? So it's a little difficult to make things work.
What happened to your mouse?
I'm on my Mac, and like it's a long story. I don't want to get into it. It's there's so many issues with this Mac and why using a mouse is a pain and difficult. So we're just using a little pad and keeping it simple, G-Rising.
Man, oh man.
I'm using the pad as well.
Drive your ass up to the store and buy you a $10 mouse. And
no, it's not, G-Rising. It's not that. It's a Mac. You got to plug in this extension. There's some issues with the extension that I had. It's a huge issue.
Man, I would just drink.
Man, going will stick to his 1 to 3 lineups. I mean, no, MME is very tough. I don't really dive into it too much in baseball, but there's a bunch of things that if you don't make it right and you leave off certain things, it's tough to get it right. So the people out there that say 150 profit guaranteed, all that, absolutely not. 150 is definitely very hard to do, but we'll go over to the next game in Fenway. Boston, the chalkiest team of the night. They have an over under at 10.5, which is a run and a half above the next highest. That's sitting at 9. Even on Minnesota, I like some of these Twins bats as well. I'm not really scared of Nick Pivetta. Bailey Ober, on the other hand, I'm definitely not scared about. Ober definitely has some splits against lefties. He's a lot worse than he is righties. I still don't mind some of these power righty bats. Renfroe double donged yesterday, JD, Xander, but I definitely like Schwarber, Rafael Devers, Alex Verdugo more because of those splits. And then going to Minnesota, Josh Donaldson's still 3.6K, Jorge Polanco still 3.6K, Sano at 3.5, Max Kepler 3.9. It's warm there. Fenway Park, I like to target, guarantee 9th inning at bats. I like this game completely. Boston's going to be owned. I do like the lefties, but I'll definitely have some Minnesota on my squad. Man, how do you like this game?
Yeah, I'm kind of going back and forth on how to approach it because I think that Boston, I think they're obviously a great play. I'm not going to completely ignore them. I think that Minnesota is a good play as well. And doing the game stack is interesting. If you think the game just goes absolutely nuts, which it certainly could, right? The bullpens have been taxed. So I think that there's opportunity here. But I will say, like, Bailey Ober has not been that bad as of late. He's been a lot better. So I'm going back and forth on how to handle it. Again, I'm more of like a one lineup guy. And Boston's going to be very chalky. I'm trying to look at different offenses. They're definitely in my player pool. They're the top offense. I want to see how it looks. And especially because if I'm going Josiah Gray, I think I'm able to get those Red Sox in. So once I kind of nail down all my stacks and we have all the lineups, then I'm going to kind of run all my different stacks and see what looks best. Now, Boston is in the conversation for me, but I don't think it's as much of a smash spot as it was yesterday. I think yesterday was a way better spot. And it wouldn't shock me if Bailey Ober went out there, pitched 6 innings or so and only gave up 2 runs. It just wouldn't be surprising to me. So I'm trying to see how things go out. I want to see when all the lineups get out, which we're certainly getting there. And, probably by now, most of them are out.
Yep. Before I get throw it to G-Rising, we got about 400 watching, 187 likes. I say we get to 225 likes. I don't think that's very hard. 225 likes for the plays of the day. I won't ask again throughout this whole thing too. I don't expect that we'll need to shut it down, but 225 likes, that's not too hard. Nice Wednesday, 10-game slate. G-Rising, man, going giving some winners. So we appreciate you guys hitting the like and subscribe button. G-Rising, Boston, Minnesota. What are your thoughts on this game? Are you going to be eating the Red Sox chalk in your tournaments? Are you going to go to the bottom of the order? What are you doing with Minnesota?
Yeah, I definitely like the Boston Red Sox a little bit more than obviously the Twins. But for me, I'm going to go with the lefties here. Like you mentioned, Schwarber. Devers is probably going to be one of the top plays on the slate. I really think Devers is in a good spot today. I mean, their lineup is righty, lefty all the way down. Vasquez is probably the only guy I would not play in this lineup. I mean, obviously we've mentioned that many times. We all think he sucks, can't hit out of a paper bag, but even down to Travis Shaw in the 8th spot, Renfroe in 7. I don't mind any of these guys here, but as you mentioned, Ober really hasn't get blown up that much here recently. Vegas seems to like it for some reason. 10.5 team total, like you mentioned, is a whole run and a half ahead of every other game. And even if you look at Pivetta, I mean, Pivetta has got beaten up a little bit, but I wouldn't say he's like blown up material where he's got really absolutely blown up and given a lot of homers. And I look over at this Twins lineup and everything past 5, I'm just not a fan of. I'm not a fan of Gordon, Jeffers, Cave, Simmons. I just don't like the bottom half of this Twins lineup at all. So I'm not really looking to stack, but I couldn't argue with you if you wanted to maybe look at 1, 2, or 3 in the Twins lineup, maybe a mini stack. But for me, the Red Sox are going to be the top offense. I think they're going to be really chalky. I think they're going to be in the 30-40% range. So I'm just I I think I might play him on one or two teams, but if I do, I think I'm going to have the Travis Shaw, maybe come back, skip Kike, and then have Schwarber, Bogarts, and Devers. But yeah, I think the Red Sox are in a good spot, but I'm like you guys. I'm not 100% sold. I think yesterday was a better spot, but I just think everybody's going to go here today. It is a good spot, but there's reason to fade it, I believe, too.
Yeah, another thing I want to point out with Minnesota, I mean, yesterday that game was absolutely crazy. I mean, Minnesota got into that Boston bullpen a lot. They used their 4 top relievers. I mean, if you can get to Pivetta early, Boston doesn't have too much back in their backside today. That they're going to be throwing out some of the guys that don't pitch as often. So I think that's pretty important. You get to Pivetta early. I expect Minnesota to put up a lot of runs. I like the Twins. I think I actually in tournaments, I'll have more of them than I will Boston just because of the ownership, guaranteed 9th inning at bats. And I always like picking on teams that use their bullpen the night before, which is the case in this one. We'll head over to the next game, Cleveland and Texas. Cleveland's the 3rd team on the slate that does have an implied team total above 5. They're going against Latz, this Jake Latz guy. He's making his major league debut. He doesn't seem like he's very good. Vegas isn't giving him too much credit. A couple of cheap guys in this Cleveland lineup too. Bradley Zimmer's down there, 2.2K in the 6 hole. Jose Ramirez is one of the best hitters in baseball, 5.4K or 5.7K. People are just going to play Rafael Devers, so I think that's a good pivot off. Franmil Reyes, he's all the way at 5.4K. I don't think he gets too much ownership. Miles Straw, he's always one of the most popular ones, 2.8K in the leadoff hole. I definitely do have some interest in some of these Cleveland bats. And like I said, I mean, the direct pivot from Devers to Ramirez is going to be lower owned in tournaments. Cleveland, 5.3 implied total, Mangone. Do you have some interest there? And then any Texas bats because they are cheap.
Yeah, I definitely have some interest in Cleveland today. And it does feel like Cleveland is that team on the slate where they're a bit priced up at some spots. Some spots they're cheap, but some spots they're kind of expensive, where I think you can make the argument that Miles Straw at 3.3 is kind of a lot on FanDuel, right? And then if you look on DK, he's 2.8. And then if you look on FanDuel, Franmil Reyes is 5.4, and that feels expensive. So part of me feels like if you take some of these guys, they're just not overall as the full-on stack going to be super high owned. Now, maybe I end up being wrong about that. Again, I'm playing more FanDuel, and it's if you look at these price tags, Jose Ramirez, 4.5K. Miles Straw, he's 3.3, like I said. Amed Rosario at 3.2. And if you look at the entire shortstop player pool, right? I mean, it's not a huge far difference between some of these other guys. People look at Jorge Polanco, he's only $300 more. So it just wouldn't shock me if he got a little overlooked. I think the Indian stack overall is a really good one that I'm going to go and target this Texas team. And we talk about the bad bullpens, right? If this guy gets pulled early, we get that bad Texas bullpen. It's also not in Texas too. So we could expect some of these bats to absolutely crush. It's hot. So I like this Cleveland team. I think I'm going to go there on this slate.
G-Risen, how do you see Texas and Cleveland?
Yeah, actually, I like Cleveland a little bit, but man, I just look at that lineup and I'm just concerned. I'm just really not a fan of the whole overall lineup to where I'm going to really want to stack them. But Franmil, I think, is in a great spot. On FanDuel, he's only 3.2. He generally smashes lefties at home. I think Franmil is in a great spot to hit a home run today. Jose Ramirez is also in a great spot, as you guys mentioned, a great pivot off Devers. I can't get on board just stacking them. I'm just not a fan of that lineup where I can pull 4 guys out. I feel like I'm going to have 2 guys in that I really don't think can hit a homer, where I got to have them have a 4-for-4 night or a 3-for-4 night to really get there for me. So to where I can win a tournament. But, just looking at this Texas lineup, geez, it's awful. I might even look a little bit more at Plesac because this lineup is terrible that Texas is rolling out. I don't remember seeing a lineup this bad in a while. Andy Ibanez is back playing. That's interesting. So, I'm not a fan of anybody here on Texas, but I might have a little love for some mini stacks of Cleveland. But Franmil to me is probably one of the best one-off plays today.
Yeah, and his price on FanDuel, he's definitely going to be higher owned over there, whereas DraftKings, I don't think people get up to him. So I definitely like Franmil a little bit today too. We'll go over to the next game. 2 pitchers in Milwaukee, 2 pitchers that we have some interest in, Castillo and Woodruff. Yesterday, we had interest in some of the pitchers in this game too. And the game went over. Cincinnati got to Corbin Burns a little bit. Milwaukee came back. I personally like the lower owned stacks like Arizona, Pittsburgh, and the Giants and Mets a little more, game stacking games like that. I see this game is pretty similar to those where I don't expect ownership to really be on them. I'm not going to play this game really. I think you can make a case to go against Woodruff, go against a Castillo. But personally, I mean, I'm not going to. If I had a one-off anybody, it would be Tyler Naquin on the Reds. He's only 2.7K in the 2-hole. And then for the Brewers, it'd probably be a Rowdy Tellez, who's 2.7K. Try and hunt a home run there. But I'm not going to be on this game really. Mangone, are you going to be on this game?
Yeah, I was trying to look into like the Brewers and consider them a little bit there against Castillo, but I just can't do it. I think I'm out on this game. I wouldn't talk someone out of the Brewers stack completely, I don't think, because like I could see it happening, but I just think it's the wrong slate to really play this game. So I'm out on it. Probably not really touching this one altogether.
G Rison?
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, with the limited teams I'm going to play, but again, going back to one of these high-end pitchers gets blown up tonight and it can help you take down a tournament with a really good offense. And I think the Reds fit that bill perfectly tonight. Woodruff gave up 6 runs last start in St. Louis. So generally we're not really, too afraid of a St. Louis type offense. So now they're getting the Reds. He's getting the Reds. I really think the Reds, as hot as they've been, could be a sneaky offense tonight. Votto, Naquin. I mean, these guys have just been crushing the ball. So if you're playing a lot of teams tonight, maybe up in 20-30 range, I wouldn't be afraid to include any Reds against Woodruff. I just looking for a team that I think can put up some runs tonight, maybe against a good pitcher. And like I said, I think Cincinnati fits that bill.
Yep, that makes sense. It's going to be really low owned. Hitters Park. It's definitely really warm. You're talking warm in Detroit. Same way out here in Wisconsin. It's pretty hot, so balls will be flying. 2 pitchers, you'll get them very low owned, like I said. Heading over to the last game, I mean, so this Dodgers-San Diego game locks at 10:10 Eastern. Milwaukee locks second last at 8:10 Eastern. So you get a 2-hour gap between this Dodgers game. Hopefully the lineups don't come out until late. I know we always talk about that. Ownership will be down for sure. And they're not even going to get a lot of ownership anyway with Blake Snell, with Walker Buehler on the mound. But I mean, yeah, we talked about it earlier, how I want to at least pick on one of these pitchers that's supposed to be pretty good, that's going to get some ownership. And Blake Snell is going to get some ownership at 7.5K. And we know there is some good Blake Snell. He does pitch better at home than the road. But this Dodgers team, I mean, I talked about it yesterday a little. They didn't do very well for me. But this lineup stacked top to bottom. We know Blake Snell can have command issues. I'm going to go right back to this Dodgers team as my low owned stack because I do think they're going to be in the single digits, top to bottom, this lineup stacked. I know we need to see it, but AJ Pollock's 3.7. There's some savings there. Trey Turner, 5.3. That's your boy G Rison. I know he'll be in your lineups. Chris Taylor, 4.5. Justin Turner, 4.8. I'm going back to the Dodgers. I need to find a low owned stack. Dodgers are my team. G Rison, Trey Turner, Dodgers, you're going to be on them at all against Blake Snell? And then if you're going to go against Walker Buehler, you'll get the Padres really low owned.
Yeah, I'm not going to be interested in any Padres. Like I said, I probably will play Buehler in a tournament as a pivot off Wheeler. So I really like that. But, you mentioned the Dodgers. I mean, you can literally play some of these big teams every night, like the Dodgers, the Rays. And when you get them in a situation like they are tonight with Snell, you're obviously going to get them low owned. The only thing that ever worries me about the Dodgers recently are a lot of the pinch hit risk, even though some of the guys you'll generally know, aren't going to get pinch hit, but there are some pinch hit risk in there. We haven't seen the lineup yet. I'm kind of wondering with the lefty if, you're going to get, you're going to get more righties here. I don't know if Corey Seager will make the lineup tonight, if he's going to be in there or not. I really don't know. So it'll be interesting. They just have so many different pieces, which again kind of brings up to your point when the lineup doesn't come out till later. Obviously people are going to shy away from that, but I see your point. The Dodgers are definitely a team that you're going to want to look at. Snell does have blow up potential, but I mean, he has been pretty good at home. So that does worry me. It sounds like the wind's going to be blowing in from what I see, like 10 miles an hour. So, a lot of times I shy away. I don't like San Diego as a park, especially at night. They talk about the marine layer and all that stuff coming in there, but I'd caution the Dodgers, but I can't fault you for it just because Snell does have that boomer bust type potential.
Yeah, I mean, you made very good points. Snell at home has definitely been good. People are saying in chat, I don't like I said yesterday, I don't like playing hitters in San Diego, really a decent pitcher. But for me, anytime I get a Dodgers team, there's certain teams, Dodgers are one of them with this power top to bottom, how good their lineup is. Anytime they're single digits, I just pretty much play them. And on a slate like this with hitting, I mean, there's not too many good spots. I'm going to go right back to them and have some. Mangone, you can have any of the Dodgers today, and then I doubt you're on the Padres, but if you are, one off or anything, enlighten us.
Nah, I mean, similar to kind of like what I said about some other teams earlier, like if you're going to play the Dodgers, right? Like I'm not going to talk you off it. Now I'm just going to say like, hey, like don't be mad if Blake Wheeler shuts him out, right? Because he can do that, but we know he can blow up. So Wheeler. You're just buying talent, right? You're buying talent. And if you want to go for that, sure. And if you want to buy it at the lower ownership because the lineup's not out, go for it. I mean, there's a lot of lineups out right now, right? Like this isn't one of those days where people are backloading out. That you can definitely get this lower owned. So if you want to play the Dodgers, go for it. But they're not on my list today. There's other offenses that I just prefer.
Very fair. It looks like just 1 of 3 on the Dodgers. And I mean, yesterday they didn't do me too well anyway. I got to go right back today, but they do fall down the list a little bit. We'll go to our favorite stacks. Looking at the likes, we only need 5 more. You guys got a minute or 2 to get 5 likes. That shouldn't be very hard for the plays of the day, but I'm going to go with the plays. I'll start with mine. I'm not going to include Boston because they're the clear chalk on the slate. I'm going to go with, I like the Twins a lot. I'm going to go Twins, game stack of Arizona Pirates, and then game stack of the Giants Mets. I prefer the Giants side a little bit, but I like targeting those 2 games that'll be lower owned. And then I do like Minnesota, Dodgers again. There'll be some of my lineups as well. So I guess I won't really have as many Angels as I thought. If I do, they will be the bottom of the order. G Rising, top 3-4 stacks for you tonight.
Well, my top stack is the Giants, as I was saying earlier. I'm going to probably have more. I'll probably have more Giants than anybody else. I might play them on 4 of my 5 teams that I'm going to play tonight. I do like the mini stack there of Cleveland. I just I can't convince myself to play 4 guys, but I do really like Reyes and Ramirez tonight. I think those guys are in good spots. I think I am going to play some Boston, but I'm going to wrap it down and have some Travis Shaw, probably skip Kike and go to Schwarber, and then maybe have 2-3-4, 8-2-3-4 is maybe what I may do with Boston. I'm not really sure yet and convinced yet on my 3rd and 4th stacks. I just think, I mean, I do like the Arizona Pittsburgh game, as you guys mentioned. I think I may like the Pittsburgh side a little bit more. But yeah, offense is tough today, but I really do like the Giants. I think I think they have the best potential tonight to hit the most home runs off Walker, and that terrible bullpen. But, I actually think now the more I'm thinking about it, I may have some Cincinnati mixed in. I think Cincinnati's creeping up for me against Woodruff. I think I'm going to get them really low owned. I just like having that offense in that spot. So, but clear cut for me is the Giants.
Mangone, top 3-4 stacks for you.
Yeah, I mean, currently right now, I'd say Boston's at the top, right? We all know that. I think I'm just going to fade the Angels and pray. We'll see how that goes. I think there's other offenses that I might try and pair with the Red Sox, or I might try and play 2 of these offenses. And like the ones I'm looking at, Giants, definitely agree with what G Rising is saying. I don't mind the Twins. If I do play the Twins, it'll probably be with the Red Sox as like the full on game stack. Like the Indians a ton. That's another one that I really, really like. And then I would say the Pirates is one that's creeping up because that total's higher than I realized. And it just feels like it's creeping up. And that happened to me the other day. I was like, man, this total's 9. Like that's crazy in that park. Gilbert's not that good. His projection's really low too. So I'm definitely liking the Pirates a little bit more. So if I ranked, I'd say Boston's probably 1. I'd go Indians at number 2. I'd go Giants at 3. And then we'll put Pirates at the 4.
Absolutely like it. Checking the likes, 232. Perfect. The people got it done. We appreciate you hanging out on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for hanging out. We'll give you the plays of the day, though, before we get out of here. JSU, Holden, DC, bringing you up to lock. If you're not a member, RPS NFL 15 gets you 15% off your life subscription per month. I'll be checking out pitching slate, a lot of good options. DC nails pitching, excited to see who he's on as well. And JSU was on Baltimore yesterday. See if he's running it back today. G Rising, up in smoke play of the day. Who do you got for us today?
Well, Muff and Smoke play of the day today is going to be Mr. Franmil Reyes against the rookie there in Cleveland. I actually think I'm going to call that Franmil is going to hit a 3-run dong in the first inning. So I like Franmil today as my Up and Smoke play of the day.
I like it for sure. You'll get them pretty low on DraftKings for sure. Good price on FanDuel. I do like that play. I'll go to myself for the SO play of the day. I already like the Giants. They've absolutely kept crushing the baseball. G. Risen talked me into liking them even more a little bit. I'm going to ride hot streaks. Brandon Belt, 4.5K in the 2-hole. I love hot streaks. He's been crushing it. Taiwan Walker against lefties. Giants should be pretty low owned. So give me Brandon Belt as the SO play of the day. Man, going to finish it off. I don't know what play of the day. We got to find you a name for sure, but what is your play of the day today? And if you got a name for it that will stick, you can spit that out as well.
No mouse.
No mouse play of the day.
It's rough over here. I will say,
no. Brandon Wheeler. What was it? Brandon Wheeler play. Blake Wheeler play of the day.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well,
go for it, man. Going.
Let me go into the play of the day. So I got I like kind of what's going on here. So I really like G. Risen's play for Franmil. I was thinking of saying him, but I was like, man, that's a guy that I'll get crap for, so I can't say him. JSU's always watching me, but I am going to give a guy that JSU. This is like the classic play. He's a good hitter. He's not going to be owned at all at that position. And I think he's a really good pivot. And it's also a nice little, if you want to do a 5-man stack, whatever your favorite 5-man stack is, pair it up with our 2-man stack and a 1-man. I'm going to the Giants and I'm going to Chris Bryant. I think Chris Bryant is a really, really strong play on this slate. And that'll kind of wrap it up there because I think Taiwan Walker's really bad. He struggles against righties, and make that your 5-2-1 stack over on DraftKings. I know it's kind of expensive. You got to pay a lot, but I think it's a really good one.
Yeah, and I mean, there are pitchers that we talked about that you can't go cheap with. Chris Bryant's not really going to be played at all. So we all do like the Giants. They shouldn't be too highly owned, but it was a fun show. Great slate, 10 games. Make sure you tune in to Up to Lock, DC, Holden, JSU, breaking it down. For G. Risen, for Get Man Going, myself, Title Town. We're out of here. Good luck, everybody.